associate surrealism with squiggly lines, melting clocks, raining men, or even elephants with spider legs. These elements are all triggered by the tension from World War I. Today, we will be diving further into this and testing if it is ever possible to recreate these elements without the direct influence of World War I.
Surrealists are often labeled as the madmen in the art history. They embrace the idea of nonconformity, or the real process of thoughts without the control of reason or moral guidelines. They want to surrender to their dreams and their imaginings. Surrealism was originated from the Dada movement, during which the artists expressed their feelings of nonsense towards the traditional art. The previous movement was more violent and less artistically based because it was directly influenced by the human suffrage of World War I. It all started in 1920s, when André Breton jotted down his Surrealist manifesto. He defined Surrealism as a combination of the conscious, or the modern world, and the subconscious, or the fantasy, into the absolute reality that is superior. Therefore, super reality, surreality, or surrealism. According to Breton, true surrealists had no talent, but they spoke their thoughts as they happened. Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytic interpretation of dreams illuminates his unconscious mind, and so artists usually use drugs or alcohol to help themselves venture into the dream world. There are two types of surrealists. One that supports automatisms, observes art through feelings. Their creations lack form because it conveyed their subconscious. Ones that supported verticism observes art through their meanings. Images are metaphors for people to understand the language of the subconscious world. Salvador Dali is probably the most famous surrealist artist of all time. Dali is a veristic surrealist. He also used Freud's psychoanalysis to access his dreams. He often placed dreams that are not typically placed together to trigger the unconscious mind and use images found in the nature. Under Freud's influence, Dali introduced artists to the paranoid critical method, along with the Metamorphosis of Narcissus as his declaration. Using this method, Dali created this masterpiece by self-analyzing his dreams or his subconscious thoughts, consciously. It was under the heavy pressure of World War I, and this painting reveals the beauty of his anxiety.
Yes.
Dali spent much of his life shocking the world with his deep analysis of it. People has attempted to recreate his work. They always fail because they never really examine the influences under it. Today, I will be tackling this job to see if Dali is the real deal. To what extent can Salvador Dali's Metamorphosis of Narcissus be recreated today? Art was significantly impacted by the setting in which the creator and the audiences are in. In order to answer this question, we have to investigate the time, space, and place in which the Metamorphosis of Narcissus took place, and simulate that to recreate the painting. We will be analyzing the painting itself, including the elements and the techniques used, as well as Salvador Dali's inspiration behind his painting and how they differ from other surrealists. We will then be imitating of Dali's techniques and to our best abilities simulate his inspirations. This taps into the challenge of simulating the World War I, which is slightly impossible. So we will have to replace this pressure point with something we are all familiar with.
Metamorphosis of Narcissus was Dali's reflection of his own growth after a period of grief. The painting features Narcissus, the young, beautiful, and ignorant Greek god who obsessed over himself and broke several hearts of his admirers. Now the Greek mythology goes like this. When a Narcissus' rejected lover suggested goddess Nemesis to punish Narcissus, this allowed Narcissus to see his own reflection in the pond, fall in love with his own appearance, and die of frustration because he couldn't respond or embrace himself. He was later relented into a daffodil flower after his death. In the painting, the man version and the flower version of Narcissus was drawn in two similar forms. On the left, Narcissus' cold and unfamiliar figure bends down in regret. On the right side, the flower blooms through the crack of his head or the egg as it was held by the limestone hand. Dali uses his double image painting technique here to present the same space in which Narcissus' self-obsession and disastrous outcome both occupied. This is different from other paintings where one ambiguous figure always hides within multiple images. Also in the painting, we can see a party of heterosexual deafening armies of Narcissus' germination. These people symbolizes Dali's mind after acknowledging the flaws in himself and in his society. With drugs and alcohol, the dead weight of Narcissus' personality lifts. However, they subconsciously turn into sexual drives and consciously into cataclysm. Dali also produced a poem to explain his interpretation and influences. The old figure of Narcissus, the god of snow, symbolizes Dali discovering the flaws in humanity. He believed that humans are only motivated to benefit themselves or the party they represent. This was mainly inspired by the mechanism of the wars. The group of people behind Narcissus symbolizes a society crying out for liberty, love, and rights post-war. Sigmund Freud's interpretation of dreams influences parts of the society to seek truth and possibly happiness from their unconscious mind. Therefore, most people turn into alcohol, drugs, or even the idea of sex to open up the gateway to the truth. The flower version of Narcissus symbolizes a solution to humanity. Dali mentioned in his poem that when the head splits, when the head bursts, it will be the flower, the new Narcissus, Gala, my Narcissus. You might be wondering who this Gala dude is. Well, Gala is Dali's wife. So in this case, Dali believed that love is a remedy that can reborn both your mind and your heart. To recollect everything that we just discussed, we know that Metamorphosis of Narcissus was inspired by the society's reaction of World War I and those who wished to find comfort through their unconscious mind. The painting also used several symbols, including the double images to represent the world's morphosis. But with all that we know, how should we recreate it? And if this recreation is possible, to what extent can my artwork be similar to Dali's?